Today I would like to do two things. One was the request to say a bit about the sociology of expectations and the developments in this approach, since I've been working on this for a long time, so it's a bit of old stuff as well, but also new things. And one of the new things I'm intrigued by is the idea of needs, and they are closely linked. I will tell you. So a bit about myself. I did my PhD in 1993, so 24 years ago. Then I did a lot of other things, traveling the world. I spent some time at consultancies, but then returned to the field, and we had a series of workshops on expectations. I discovered then also others were very much interested in this, and so we had a series of workshops in different countries, and in the end we also wrote that down in an article. The work on this is ongoing, and proof of that is the latest handbook of STS, where there is a chapter by Cornelia Conrad, myself, Christopher Groves, and Cynthia Salin from ASU Arizona on performativity, temporality, and anticipation. And as Robin has said, well, I've made this move from innovation studies to STS per se, but I see myself as playing in both fields, innovation studies and STS. And I think the idea of expectations contribute to both. And well, to continue this broader overview, just to show that I feel that expectations are indeed an important entrance point to many discussions, I just briefly lump together the various lines of research that I'm engaged in. So one is the dynamics of expectations, and I will continue about that in a minute, in all kinds of settings, so hydrogen, energy, healthcare. Another is how to assess emerging technologies. So I've been involved in nanotechnology for a long time, and I will briefly say a bit about that as well. Diagnostics of Alzheimer's, responsible research innovation, that's the new block, the new kid in town. Also systems of science and technology, the discussions about transformations in the research system, mode 1, mode 2 discussion, intermediaries, and finally what I call articulation, so broad, big terms that are promising, that you cannot ignore, like sustainability, but also responsibility. They have to be filled in a particular way, and you can study that. And we've done that in various fields like agriculture, but also in nanotechnology, and the issues of needs is also related to that. So a broad overview just to show that I'm still committed to this starting point of expectations. So this is a bit of the old. So how could you see this field, sociology of expectations? One clarification that is key is that expectation is not meant in a psychological sense. It's not what some particular person has in its mind, or it's in a review of what might happen. It's something that is out there, sociological. So sociology of expectations. Expectations are then, well, defined here, circulating representations of the future. So they are available, they are resources, and when they are there, they have effects. And well, these expectations can be statements, so what you read in the press, what you hear from others, but also images, even artifacts. So if you would see the car of the future at car exhibitions, that is a statement. That is an expectation, although it's an artifact. They are everywhere within firms, society, policy circles. They're collective. It's not a private item, and they are very heterogeneous. They are also of different levels, and they're nested. So this is the basic of the basic unit of the sociology of expectations, and on top of that you would also have promises, which are more positive. Expectations can also be negative. visions, which are packages of expectations lumped together in a narrative, and imaginaries, which are then also related to expectations as well. The basic block is expectations itself, and they are collective. So, as I said, they can be about all kinds of things, and they are collective in two ways. One is that they are not features of one individual, they are features of a field, or an organization, or a whole society. And the other way is that they are collective, is that they are more or less shared, in the sense that an expectation can be contested, and when they are not so easily contested, like something like, well, sustainability is becoming important, that is an expectation, you don't need a lot of effort to contest it. So it's shared, because it does not need a lot of justification, whereas other expectations need a lot of justification, so they're less shared. And again, you will notice that I'm not stressing the psychological part there, whether someone really believes in it. It's just that you need the amount of work needed to make this point. When the amount of work is less, then it's shared. When you need a lot of work, then apparently it's less shared. Okay. Then, so what does the sociology of expectation try to achieve? Well, it tries to, it's quite small. Can you read it? Yeah, okay, good. The basic thing is expectations are not innocent, they do something. And that's important, because expectations are everywhere. So, the key thing there is performativity, so statements that do something. That has been innovation in philosophy in the 1960s. Even there's innovation. Before, the idea was that statements can be either descriptive or normative. So the famous is-ought distinction. But then a third category was also discovered, so to speak. The famous book of Austin, How to Do Things with Words. The idea that words can also exist in another way, as performative. They do something, and the basic example is when you marry, you would say, do you marry this man or wife? And if you say yes, then you change reality. It's not a description, it's also not normative, you change it. But even more mundane examples are there. So if you would say, I will bring back your book tomorrow, that is not a description. It's also not normative that you should. No, you change reality by inserting a link, inserting an obligation. In a sense, they have been there. People knew they were there. We have the self-fulfilling prophecies of Merton. In 1948, he described this idea that reality can change because of ideas, how reality is. Then the third thing I would like to add to this, that performativity depends on the position. So when a research manager would say in front of the parliament that he expects that this material will improve its performance in 2 years, okay, there's not so much performativity there. Whereas if he would say that in front of his group in his laboratory, then it would seem as well, we should do this, because our research director feels that this should be doable in 2 years. So, statements that do something. And what do they do? Well, all kinds of things, but you could lump them together in 3 elements. So first, legitimation. Why do we invest here? Why do we take this research direction? you could point to expectations, and you should, and you all do. When you write your proposals, you know this game. You point to what it might deliver in the end. The second thing is that it guides the search. So it's open, it's a lot of uncertainty in research and technology. Where to look, what is the most appealing way forward? Well, you follow the expectations. They become heuristics. So for a long time, making things smaller, that would be sort of heuristic. And well, you see that in all kinds of levels of detail. This is how you could see what expectations are at work. And thirdly, I find that very intriguing, there's coordination. So what you would see is there's an overall idea of the future, of, say, synthetic biology, and then you would see different research groups, also nations, firms, finding their place in this overall future, and in this way they coordinate their efforts, so that they then, oh, if this is happening, then maybe we would focus on the databases, because we're good at that, and databases are needed in synthetic biology. And the others then would focus on crystallography or something like that. So you have these shared ideas of the future. They are narratives, and in these narratives you could pick a position and the character in that story. So that is the basic mechanism, positioning, but also mutual positioning. So I do something and then I expect you to do that. And so actors position themselves. So these together then lead to the riddle of is need its own grandmother? I think so. But the basic question here is, how do they co-evolve needs and novelty? I have a few examples. Historically neatly organized. So an example of Paris around 1800, the engineers thinking about needs, how much water do people need? So the very basic water. But yeah, they have been struggling with that. When Paris was reorganized and the new profession of engineers was asked to come with solutions. Second example, photography, around 1900, around 2000, the internet, where we see needs in the making, but also then needs developing into rights. And the fourth one of space tourism, which is a case of needs in the making. About first example, urban water supply. It's a long story, we'll make it very short here. There are all kinds of engineers, Despartieu, Bral, Bruyère and Girard, having all kinds of ideas of how to bring water to Paris. But their basic puzzle was, how much water does Paris need? How much water does a citizen need? Some would say, well, that's a political decision. That's nothing for engineers. We just follow what policies say. Politicians say, well, people need so much water. Others would say, well, no, need is something you can observe. Just closely look how much water people use, healthy people use, and then that's what they need. And then you have this quote from Bruyère. It says, well, it's a fact, and everybody can check it, that a family of 10 individuals only consumes an average of approximately 69 liters a day. So what we need is 7 liters per person. And do you know how much liters we now use per person? More or less? It's more than 7. It's around 150. Yeah. So that's. But this was the idea that needs. Well, you can observe what people need just by looking at them. and others just follow the technical decisions. So which river, that if you have another river to bring fresh water, then you would have other streams of water and also more needs then. So the basic puzzle was where to decide, well, how much water people need. So that's very, very basic. And that was their struggle. Another example of how needs are part of novelty is a famous example of the Kodak box. Eastman challenging the photography industry, which was a professionals market, where you would have glass plates and emulsion on it, and so it was very heavy, and it required expert knowledge to operate a camera. His idea was to replace glass with celluloid, so you would have these rolls, and it would be a black box where you could just, as a consumer, just buy the black box and make photos and send the box to the manufacturer, and you would it would be returned with the developed photos, and you could continue. So you push the button, we do the rest. That was the philosophy. So he knew that he was challenging the professionals market of photography, and made it very simple, so that he made all kinds of efforts to tell people, is it simple? It's something for everyone. So every boy or girl, there's a Merry Christmas in the Kodak box. Also very cheap. And it's not just available, but it's something you should use. So a vacation without a Kodak is a vacation wasted. You could just not, it's better not to go on vacation if you forget your camera. And so it's really, and this is typical for successful entrepreneurs, that they are not just developing a new technology, but also a new need. Entrepreneurs know that, and they spend a lot of efforts on this. The interesting thing is, once this innovation is successful, then it turns around. Then the logic is different. Then we don't say, well, we have cameras because Eastman developed this market. No, we say we have cameras because we have a need to make pictures to have nice memories of our families and friends. So it changes. The internet, well, all kinds of stories. We did some research in newspapers. This is the leading Dutch newspapers on our NRC. So around in the 90s, and I guess in the UK it would be comparable, discussions about, well, the internet, or the electronic superhighway as it was called, is it something you need, or it's not indispensable? It could be indispensable, so it was still open. But there was also some debunking. For instance, that the internet would be available for everyone. No, that would not be the case. And just the thought that there is a need for an electronic superhighway, well, why would you? It's nice to have, but why would you do this? It was ambivalent, and well, we all know these curves. It almost saturated in all the continents, and it's really it's coming to 100%. And well, also studies 10 years later that really you cannot do without. So this was a quote showing that, a confirmation of what everyone already felt. The internet is more important than a refrigerator and television. And we now have these games where young people are challenged to live without a smartphone for a week, for instance. We cannot do without this. It's really part of our lives now. And you have all kinds of movements saying this, well, internet is a basic human right. It's not a need, it's a right. And last year there has been a judge in Germany who declared that someone who could not pay his debts could not be cut off from the internet. So traditionally you could not be cut off from electricity and gas, because that would be inhumane, it would be too cold. But also cutting someone off from internet, it's all inhumane. Then you're not a full person anymore. So it's become a right. So novelty. So first promise, novelty.